Hey everyone, welcome to another episode from Pro Engineering. I've gotten quite a number of requests about modifications that are necessary for some of the WPL cars, and I wanted to go ahead and address them. The main question I get is, I want to get a WPL, what upgrades do I need? Now, this is going to be kind of weird me saying this, given the fact that this truck here is absolutely encrusted in every single possible upgrade. But what I want to stress is that in this hobby, it seems that a lot of people just want to funnel money into their project cars, and I totally understand that. But not everybody has that kind of financial backing. The number one goal of the RC car hobby is to have a good time. And this little WPL car is a fantastic way to do that. So first things first, if you would like to buy one of these, may I suggest that you buy the kit, not the ready-to-run model. The reason I say that is the kit has some upgrades. For example, this one here, which was a kit, has the soft tires, which are significantly softer than the ones that would come on the ready-to-run model. It also came with a servo, and on top of that, the electronics that do come with the ready-to-run model are, and I'm sorry to say this, but for me, they are not acceptable. There are plenty of applications where those electronics are quite good. So if you give this car to a child, they're going to be fine. But if you do want to have a little bit more of an upgrade and don't want to dump a fortune into these cars, that can be done. You can buy a lot of these 2.4 gigahertz radios for very, very little. And I believe you can buy receiver speed control combinations for these trucks. I'm not familiar with them. What I typically use are these little 20 and, sorry, this is the only one I have left here, these little 20 and 30 amp ESCs that I find on eBay. I wish I could provide you links. Unfortunately, the sellers are constantly changing. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to do a little bit of digging to locate them. The receivers and the radios that I happen to love happens to be this FS-GT3B. The reason I like this radio so much is that this is around $35 and it has a 10 model memory, I think. And the receivers are about $4 each. This is also a 3-channel radio, so that if you do want to have a third channel for a 2-speed transmission, that is acceptable. Now, I do want to dive into some of these upgrades. This truck has everything that I could find available from when I bought it. So this has the upgraded metal axle housings. It has all metal gears, has the 2-speed transmission, and has these upgraded links. It doesn't have the upgraded shocks yet, but I do have them for this truck. The upgraded transmission does have a larger motor. And then again, the same servo, ESC, and receiver that I just talked about, as well as a light kit and so on, and 3D printed parts everywhere, but that is not necessary. When building this truck here, I wanted to have something that was just enough for someone to have a good time and not break the bank. So this truck was about $40, the radio was about $35, ESC was $6, and the only upgrade that I have done to this truck is the metal drive shafts. Now this is the most critical upgrade that I've seen. Drive shafts that come with these trucks tend to be they're beautifully molded, but they are very, very fragile. And yes, the motor tends to be a little bit underpowered, but the thing is, it still works. The drive shaft, when that fails, it's going to fail the day that you take it out with you for a nice time and it breaks 15 minutes into driving, and then you're completely out of luck. This truck, other than the upgraded electronics, only has the drive shaft. And yes, of course, you can later upgrade all kinds of things. These links are a little bit cheap feeling and looking, but the fact of the matter is they work fine. Unless you're going to really hammer this truck, I think they'll be acceptable for years and years of wear and tear. The only other upgrade that you can do over time that I think would provide the most enjoyment would be a upgraded motor and transmission. Like I said, the motor's a little bit small and underpowered. It seems to get the job done, but the fact is you would prefer to have a lower gear ratio in this vehicle because it can be quite a reasonable rock crawler. I don't use mine for rock crawling. These are all trail trucks. But the fact is, even in terms of detailing this truck, I just grabbed a can of tan paint and just sprayed it down real fast for the interior, masked off the hood and painted it gray, masked off the door and painted it teal, just to give this truck a little bit of a different look. I wanted to make it as simple as possible because really the target audience for this truck is not someone that's going to drop $5,000 on it. It's somebody that perhaps isn't quite there yet to afford a $500 or $600 truck, or even just wants to try the hobby out. So please don't feel like if you don't have $500 to put into an RC car that you can't enjoy the hobby. For maybe $120, $130, this truck is going to give me years and years of reliable service, and over time I will be able to slowly upgrade little things here and there should I see that necessary. In terms of powering the truck, it does come with this 700 milliamp battery pack. I think this is nickel metal hydride. I'm not entirely sure. This is the JJRC one that came with one of my other trucks. Yeah, I'm sure this is going to be acceptable, but the reason why I never use this is that the connector is different than the connector on the ESC, so I never bothered with this guy. Here I went ahead with a lithium polymer battery. Now this battery was about $6. It's actually more closer to double the capacity of the other battery, and will fit very nicely in the storage compartment back here. Now, if you are a parent looking at purchasing one of these for a child, may I please strongly recommend that you do not allow a young child to use a lithium polymer battery. Although they are incredibly efficient and provide significantly longer run times based on their volume versus, you saw the size of this one here and the size of the other one. The problem is that NiCad nickel metal hydride batteries are incredibly stable. Lithium polymer batteries can be incredibly dangerous if punctured, overdrained, and improperly charged and stored. So it is critical that you do not allow a young child to use a lithium polymer battery without extreme adult supervision. So let's go ahead and turn this on real quick. So there we go. What's kind of cool about this truck as well is that it came with these warm headlights, which they look very yellow in the video. They're not quite as yellow as they look. They're just a warm white. The lights on the top I wired myself just to, have more lights. And unfortunately, I didn't have any warm white LEDs, so I went with those, but very, very inexpensively. I just soldered up some wires. It's not beautiful, but it cost about 15 cents to do this, and I just tapped right into the headlight circuit. We've got our left and right, and it's acceptable. The turning radius is fine. In terms of, power, it's certainly not fast. It's certainly not very powerful, but it will, it'll get the job done. Even in terms of my JJRC, this truck was a ready-to-run model, unfortunately, so I didn't have to, but I wanted to replace the tires with a softer one, and it did make a significant difference. The only thing that I've modified on this is I have swapped out the drive shafts for these more robust ones. I didn't do the rear because as of right now, I do not believe that there is a drive shaft set made for the JJRC due to the fact that the axle housings here where the differential is much larger than that of the WPLs. This means that the distance between the input shaft and the output shaft of the transmission is significantly decreased. The reason I was able to install this on the JJRC is because I've got the 2-speed transmission, which is a little bit shorter, and it just barely made it work. Now, I don't want to focus on this particular upgrade here with this car right now. I'll talk about it later. But what I wanted to mention as well is that be sure that the car you purchase does have future upgrades. Currently, this JJRC does not have the upgrades necessary. Again, I've modified a couple things to make this work, but just be aware that some brands like JJRC don't quite have that backing that the WPLs do, despite their incredible similarities. Let me take this out for a spin real quick, and it won't be anything too crazy. I'll just go in the front yard, but I can show you that with very, very minimal work, this can be a fun little truck. there we have it. I think for the amount of outlay for this vehicle, it has proven itself to be a good amount of fun. You know, this video is certainly targeted toward the person that isn't capable of dumping a fortune into these cars or just wants to get their feet wet. In the comments, please post any of your ideas about newbies and what they can buy. And if anybody's familiar with this, any good ideas that you have for this car. Another good source to figure out what to do with your WPL is simply YouTube. There's a lot of amazing channels out there with people making modifications to these vehicles, not just purchasing them like I kind of did here with this one, but also just hacking things together and just making random stuff work, because again, this is a super simple car. Anyway, I hope this video was informative and helpful to especially those of you out there who are interested in one of these WPL cars. You do not have to do what I did to this to have something really neat. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
I bet, can we be a little bit quiet just while Daddy's recording?